Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to another live stream. Let me know if my mic is okay. Let me know if you guys can hear
For just
me.
$9.99, try
Let me check my audio. Oh, I'm getting ads. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Push one in the chat if I'm clear and if my mic is loud enough. Hey, 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 hey. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. As you can see by the title, I want to talk about why nice, dark skinned women finish last. And okay, good. You guys can hear me. Great. And I just want to make it clear that when I say dark skinned black women, I am referring to unambiguous dark skinned black women. Okay. Not ambiguous or mixed dark skinned women, but unambiguous dark skinned black women that look similar to the woman that you see on the screen, okay? Or the AI image that you see on the screen, rather. Okay, and when I say nice dark skinned women finish last, I'm not suggesting that unambiguous dark skinned women have to be mean or evil to get ahead. Even though sometimes you will have to be mean, I mean, everybody does. But when I say nice, I am referring to unambiguous dark skinned women being who the black community and society in general expects us to be, which are mules, mammies, placeholders, coddlers. I mean, the list goes on, right? And if you are a person who doesn't understand why I say that, then this video is not for you and it's not meant for you to understand. And what inspired me to talk about this video was or talk about this topic was the wonderful testimonials I got from black women under my last video. And I'll go ahead and highlight some of those because I just thought they were so nice. Let's make those a little bit bigger. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I got a ton of testimonials under the last video, and they made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Yeah, Mahogany says we're done being doormats. We are. A lot of us are. A critical mass of us are. At least the ones over here, we're done with that. But every time I see these testimonials, I am reminded of how impactful this channel has been over the last 10 years. I mean, I literally have young women who have grown up listening to me, which is wild. They'll be like, "Yeah, I've been listening to you since I was 16 and now I'm 25." And I'm like, "Oh my God." This is a lot. It's a lot. Y'all making me feel old, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good, as we get older, we get wiser. So, I'm happy to be somebody y'all consider, your virtual big sister or your virtual auntie. I'm cool with that, right? But I want y'all to know that I do see and I pay attention to the positive comments. I mean, we have testimonials, women who have gotten married, even if they're not married, they're just happier in general because of the advice that I give on my channel or because something they heard on my channel. And I see y'all and I pay attention to the positive comments. They definitely don't go unnoticed. But one thing I noticed in most of the testimonials that I get is that the women's lives I have helped to change, they were not afraid to go against the grain, right? That's one thing they all seem to have in common. They're not afraid to be um or not be what the community and society has conditioned and tried to shame us into being, right? Whether it's them putting down the cape and refusing to mule, or embracing their femininity, refusing to date colorist men, what else? Venturing out and expanding their romantic options to all races of men, prioritizing their own phenotype as an unambiguous dark skinned woman instead of idolizing and living vicariously through light skinned and mixed women. Dark skinned women doing all of those things goes against the grain. And, that is when we are considered to be dark skinned women who are not nice, right? Any dark skinned woman who goes against the grain, we're mean, we're bitter, we're evil, we're hateful, we're miserable. Right? All of those things. So that's why, I use the word nice. It's what the community and society considers a nice dark skinned woman to be. The dark skinned women who have leveled up usually are not those women, right? And they were able to level up regardless of what, all of the community shaming and the pressure that comes with, being different and making different decisions. And they leveled up, they succeeded, and accomplished whatever goal, they sought out to accomplish. They were the so-called selfish women, the jealous women, the bed wenches, the wannabe white women. They were the obedient, quote unquote, nice. They weren't the obedient, quote unquote, nice dark skinned women. And look where they are compared to so many, other dark, unambiguous dark skinned women who got destroyed and got devoured being mules and mammies, placeholders, ass kissers, right? The play it safers for black men in the black community. And this is why I say nice, dark skinned women finish last. And unfortunately, there are a lot of younger, dark skinned women who are still being too nice, in my opinion. And even though I have seen dark skinned women progress and I've seen the improvements, I do notice an uptick of younger, dark skinned women in particular still falling for colorist manipulation and falling for the shaming tactics. And they're too naive to realize what they are. And so, I want to talk about in this video because we're in an era where black women who tell the truth about colorism, or just do something opposite that the community tells us to do, or we go against the status quo in any way, I feel like we're being penalized more harshly. Have you guys noticed that? It's like the world is, it's not just, colorism topics or, anything that goes against the grain or against the status quo, but the world in general is going backwards right now. With the politics, our current administration, we're just going backwards, right? And some of those changes are not altogether bad because I feel like we were getting a little bit too extreme in some areas. But, a lot of things are moving backwards in a bad way, right? And so that's part of the issue. And, also the colorism conversation coming from dark skinned women is not trendy anymore. And, for me, it was never a trend. I didn't come on here when it was trendy to talk about colorism at all. It was the exact opposite. Y'all used to tear, well, I'm not saying y'all listening, but people in general used to tear me up, okay, behind my commentary. And then I would say, I don't know, 2018, 19, 2020, something like that. I think 2020 was really the peak of the colorism discussion online, when it was really, trendy to talk about. Everybody was jumping on the bandwagon or whatever. And now that it's not trendy anymore, a lot of those people kind of fell off. You know what I mean? But personally, like, it was never that for me. DDS, I started that in 2012. So, and that was way before it was popular to even promote dark skinned women, which is why that page grew up or blew up. For those of you who are familiar with Divine Dark Skin, you know what I'm talking about. But, so we're out of it. We're out of the era where discussing colorism is trendy, right? And because it really didn't make black men want to change, it just made them angry. And also, because many of them lied about their participation in colorism, now a lot of dark skinned women, y'all want to go back to pretending it doesn't exist. Kind of like the dark skinned women who that were under that video about Gigi and that young man when, he was saying he preferred light or dark and brown skinned women. I did a video on that, so go check it out if you haven't already. It's my latest pre-recorded video. But you know, it's I saw that a lot in that comment section, in those comment sections where, a lot of dark skinned women were just in heavy denial about it. And it's like I said in that video, I'm not going to repeat everything, but that's not going to help you. Being in denial about colorism and just the way the world is, that's not going to help you. But I do think that black women, because, a lot of y'all felt like you didn't get what you wanted out of black men when it came to the colorism conversation. They didn't react the way you wanted them to. Now you want to go back to like pretending it doesn't exist and, kind of hiding and shrinking yourself and trying to appease colorists. And I've noticed there has been a rise in colorist women in general who deny colorism and gaslight other dark skinned women who discuss it because, again, it's no longer trendy to talk about. So they denounce it or deny it to look like they're more confident and secure than they really are. Usually, again, in the eyes of colorists, they want to look secure. And like I always say, trying to prove that you're not insecure or not a hater to colorist people, it actually points to insecurity. It doesn't point to confidence, right? And also, it's not going to help you. And you have to understand, ladies, trying to appease colorists is a losing game because they're always going to move the goalpost. And this is why I say nice girls finish last, because the more you try to appease them, you're just going to be on a hamster wheel, trying to catch up to this non-existent goal that you'll never reach because they keep moving the goalpost, especially black men, right? And you need to think about how much their talking points change depending on what we say, right? If we call out a colorist black man, we're male identified. We're pick-me's. We need to decenter men, right? And then when we actually decenter them and we refuse to date colorist men or men who use us as placeholders, then we're mad because we can't get a man and we're femcells and, we're ugly and we can't get picked, right? And then when it comes to me, if I don't talk about colorism and I take down my videos, my old videos, to stop people from misusing those videos, it's because I'm quote unquote scared, right? And then when I talk about colorism and I literally say the same exact thing that I said in those old videos, because please believe my talking points have not changed. But then when I talk about colorism again, then I'm quote unquote insecure and I have a victim mentality and I need to be quiet. So do you see how the goalposts will always move no matter what you do, dark-skinned women? You're never going to do anything right in the eyes of colorists. So trying to appease them is a futile effort, right? And then they love to accuse us of, oh, you think y'all trying to make every dark-skinned woman attractive, right? But as soon as we say not all light-skinned women or non-black women are attractive, then we're hateful and we're jealous. So do you see how we aren't allowed to pretty much say the same things that they are? And we already knew that. So it's like, I don't understand, like, the dark-skinned women, you're like sitting around allowing people to pretty much call women who look like you or similar to you ugly and, say all these terrible things about you, but you're afraid to say it back. And oh my God, don't let us be living in luxury or embracing the soft life. Then we're trying to quote unquote act white. So that's another thing. And I feel like it's only Black American dark skinned women who get accused of trying to be white when, we exude luxury outside of the hood rich aesthetic. Because when you think about it, it's like the Black woman in luxury aesthetic is popular in other cultures of Black people. They display wealth in a similar so-called Eurocentric way. Black people from Africa, Black people from the Caribbean. And I know they, were colonized by white people too, but we need to stop pretending that class and caste systems and hierarchy, we need to stop acting like that didn't exist among Black people before colonialism. Show me where the hood rich aesthetic existed in ancient Africa, since, it's so authentically black. And these are the talking points they get y'all caught up in. And then you're somewhere trying to prove that you're down, and you're not trying to act white. And it's like, no. And I get that white people own everything now, but class is not inherently white. And black women being fluid and, socializing with different races of people, that isn't inherently white either. Especially American black women. Like, that makes no sense when most of us were born and raised in the melting pot that is the United States. We grew up around white people. We had a bunch of white teachers. Like, we were around white people. We've been around white people our entire lives. And chances are, let's just keep it real, there are white and mixed people in your family as well as a black woman. And that's usually because one or a few of your black male relatives knocked up a white woman. So most of us even have white women and white people and mixed people in our families. Black women are not strangers to non-black people. So it's like none of what they're trying to convince you to not participate in makes sense. Oh, you're trying to be white because you like going to a nice restaurant, because you like going to Ruth Chris. That's inherently white? What's inherently white about going to a nice restaurant? What's inherently white about going to a nice upscale art exhibit? What's white about that? Yeah, class is class. And then, when we as black women, especially dark-skinned women, we want to, look and act in a presentable way in public, or we want to code switch in these different environments, then, it's respectability politics. And you're not keeping it real. Meanwhile, the people who tell you that, they would never say what they type in the comments, or say in their videos at work or at church, or in front of their coworkers, or, in a professional environment. And any black person who tells you that they never practice respectability politics, or tells you that they never code switch, is lying. And if they never code switch or practice respectability politics, then they probably don't have a job. Okay? They're probably poor. They're probably broke. Because you have to practice respectability to get ahead in the society that we live in. There's no way around it. And it's not just black people who code switch and practice respectability. Every race does this. Do you think white people at your job are saying everything that they think about you at work? Or when they see a black person walking down the street, and I'm talking about racist white people specifically, you think they're saying everything that they feel? You think they're always keeping it real? Who in this society always keeps it real? So these are the kind of mind games they play with you to try to keep you from leveling up. They'll tell you you're not keeping it real. Meanwhile, nobody does. Nobody keeps it real all of the time. So you have all of these people telling dark-skinned women not to do something, and then they're turning around and doing the same things. And it's because they need us there to validate them. They need us there to make them feel special. They need us there not leveled up to feel like they're higher than us. Right? And I'm talking about any group of people who dark-skinned women uplift over ourselves. And that includes black men, light-skinned women, women who are mixed with black or ambiguous women, non-black women, non-black people. All of those groups benefit from us lifting them up, being nice, not competing, right? Being nice little dark-skinned women who adhere to the status quo so they can feel better than us. And then when we don't do that, they become threatened. So then they try to stop us from getting ahead by shaming our strategies, even though they themselves use the same strategies. They're trying to sabotage your progress, dark skinned women. They're attempting to neutralize you and get you to do something different because they don't somehow want you to surpass them. They're afraid of you surpassing them, or they're afraid of you being on equal footing with them. It's a very, very sneaky way of them competing with us. And then they'll tell you, "Oh, we're not competitive." Yes, you are. Like, everybody, like, I feel like that's a human condition. I won't say that's inherent to humans. I think we were socialized to compete, but either way, humans are very competitive. I don't know. Maybe it is inherent. I don't know. Because other animals are competitive. It's not just us. So, but I do think maybe we're socialized to be hyper competitive. Hey Jennifer, thank you for your donation. Yeah, so um they're competing with us. And this is why I keep telling y'all to stop kowtowing to them and attempting to appease them, because no matter what we do as dark-skinned women to benefit ourselves is going to be wrong in their eyes. They'll never be satisfied until we just go away and just shut up and be quiet and fall in line. And if we don't do that, they're just going to keep moving the goalposts depending on what we say and do. And only weak-minded dark-skinned women actually try to satisfy these kind of people. And I'm noticing, I'm not trying to be messy, okay? But I have to say this. I'm noticing that some of these newer dark-skinned woman platforms ran by these younger dark-skinned women, a lot of y'all are very weak-minded. You're very, very weak-minded, and you're operating your platforms out of insecurity and trying to appease colorist people. And then I've noticed, because I watch and I observe for a while before I say something, but I noticed that platforms like that, they eventually get burned out because you end up still getting attacked and gaslit, even though you were trying to be the perfect little sweet little nice, dark skinned girl that doesn't shake the table. And you end up getting attacked, and so then you shrink into yourself because you're so weak-minded and insecure and fragile. But see, that's why you can't build your platforms on that kind of shaky foundation of trying to appease colorists or trying not, to not look like a hater to them, because they'll always find a way to call you that as long as you are prioritizing yourself as a dark-skinned woman and not them. And if you internalize the colorist insults and you believe what they say about you being insecure and having low self-esteem or having a victim mentality, then you'll never get ahead, because you'll always be that in their eyes. Okay? As long as you are prioritizing yourselves, that is what you will always be. So in order to do this work, ladies, okay, you have to truly have high self-esteem. You have to truly have confidence as a dark-skinned woman and be secure enough to not internalize those attacks. Otherwise, you're always going to get ran off by these colorist people. How do you think I've been here for 10 years? You get what I'm saying? And so y'all are doing it wrong. You're building your platforms to appease colorists or to look special to them. You're the nice dark-skinned woman, and the nice dark-skinned woman always finish last. I didn't grow my channel by kowtowing to colorists. I didn't help thousands of dark-skinned women playing nice and being fair and balanced. And be clear, there are times where you should play nice. There are times when you should be neutral to benefit yourself out in the real world, okay? But if you're an anonymous YouTuber on YouTube trying to help dark-skinned women and, help them level up, you don't have to be that. You don't have to be fake. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't benefit you to be that. If you're an anonymous YouTuber, just keep it real. That's when you should keep it real. So that's part of why some of you aren't getting very far. And no, I'm not going to shout any of you out that I'm referring to because y'all threw me under the bus because the colorist got in your head. Yeah, I saw that. I saw you throw me under the bus. You try to come out and be, these different special dark skinned women, and you still got attacked and ran off. So what you're trying to do does not work. It doesn't work in this environment on YouTube. I get what you're trying to do, and maybe the strategy will work out in the real world, or if you're showing your face or something. But in the sector that you're trying to do it in, it's ineffective. You get what I'm saying? Whitney, thanks for your donation, but no, you're never gonna see how I look. Yeah, I'm sorry, most of y'all don't deserve that. Love most of y'all down, and thank you for supporting me, but mm-mm. And those who know, you know why I say that. YouTube is not safe. It ain't safe for dark skinned women like me who come up on here and say the things that I say. So I'm anonymous for a reason. And if you don't like that, that's fine. And if you don't want to support that, that's absolutely fine. But if that's why you're listening, if that's the only reason you're listening to me, then yeah, you might not want to listen. Because it'll be a long time, if at all, where I'll come on here and show my face. Yeah, the black women and the dark skinned black women who are on YouTube, yeah, and they know who I'm talking about, but they have a weird habit of expecting me to shout them out after they throw me under the bus. It's so weird. And black women in general on YouTube are like that. Like they're like, "Oh, Christy doesn't promote other black women," and then you drag me in my content and you lie on my platform. Like, why would I promote you? That's crazy. And again, it's expecting dark skinned women to be these mammies that just give, 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 and don't expect any reciprocity. Is that am I saying that right? Reciprocity. Yeah, they don't expect, they expect us not to expect anything in return, despite always giving and giving and giving. That's not me. I'm not that kind of girl. And it's sad that even other dark skinned women expect you to be that kind of girl just because you're a dark skinned black woman. Oh, we all have to lift each other up no matter what. No, the hell we don't. If you throw me under the bus, or if your platform is detrimental to other dark skinned women, hell no, I'm not gonna shout you out. Hell no. What, you think my boundaries don't apply to you too? And I'm certainly not going to uplift and promote any weak minded, fragile, and insecure dark skinned women in this space. I'm not going to do it. And what I like about most of the unambiguous dark skinned women over here who follow me, I feel like we're the real definition of confident insecure. We don't suck up to colorist people. We don't succumb to their gaslighting and manipulation. We're not so weak minded that we allow our ops to talk us out of using the same strategies that everyone else does to get ahead. We don't allow them to convince us that it's wrong to do that. We also don't internalize colorist trigger words like jealous and insecure and inferiority complex and hater and victim mentality and ugly. Yeah, we don't let that silence us. And I see y'all young dark skinned girls doing that. And it's pathetic. I mean, imagine trying to prove to colorists that you're not insecure and ugly. When many of them, and this is all shade, okay? Many of them calling you insecure and ugly are also insecure and ugly themselves. So, this is pathetic. And I told y'all a long time ago that that's the internet. Fat people calling other people fat, ugly people calling other people ugly, scammers calling other people scammers. So, it's really not a real place. Like, it's a real place, but it's not a real place. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, There's no way you should be basing your self-esteem and your self-worth off of people on here. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, it's projection. It is. But I do think that a lot of this, backwards behavior that I see coming from dark skinned women, you know, it is because of the colorism conversation fatigue, That's what I like to call it. Because I was talking to another content creator about this behind the scenes. Again, it's about the trendiness too, but it's just that, after a while, you get tired of talking about it, right? I get tired of talking about colorism. That's why I don't talk about it as much. And I understand being to a point to where you're tired of the colorism conversation. It's very similar to how corporations go through something called brand fatigue or overexposure, and it's basically where the the consumer or the audience becomes tired of the brand or tired of what's being sold or tired of the service or whatever, whatever the case. And I do feel like that's kind of what dark skinned women are experiencing now in regards to the colorism conversation. It's like colorism combo fatigue, right? And so, um, and I experienced that too after 10 years. So I get it. I totally get it. And, personally, I've also matured and I'm more indifferent to the colorism discussion. I said that in the last video. One thing I still really do care about is the collective image of black women and especially dark skinned women because I'm a dark skinned black woman. So I don't know if I'll ever not care about that. And, to talk about that, sometimes you have to talk about colorism. So it is what it is. So I do still care about that part. But and also how we respond to colorism. That's more so where my focus is now. But as far as like black men and their colorism, girl, I'm so numb to that shit. It don't make no sense. Like I saw those videos that I did a video on, the last video on, and I was like, oh my god. Like I mean, I look at most black men, I'm not attracted to them anymore. I'm turned off by them. It's just like, ew. So I'm very numb to black men's colorism. Thank goodness. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are too. Yeah, Whitney says, I still support you no matter what. You and some of the people in the chat are right. It's best to remain anonymous due to safety reasons. Yeah. And thank you for that. Yeah, and the only reason I did that video was because the way dark skinned women were responding, I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta, cause this is crazy. So I gotta say something. But as far as like, and I want y'all to get over it. Like I said in the last video, it's just so freeing to not care about what they think and who they want. And for the women who say, oh well, you're lying, you still care about colorist black men because you still talk about them. Yeah, I'm still talking about them because I still care about dark-skinned women and girls. And I want them to get to where I'm at. I want them to get to a place of indifference. So it's a big difference between, me talking about colorism and somebody else. And I also think that that talking point is kind of used again to keep other keep dark skinned women, the dark skinned women who know better, to keep them from saying something and putting other dark skinned women on game. So that's another way they try to kind of stop us from putting other dark skinned women on game so y'all can level up and get out the matrix. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing they do. They'll be like, oh, well, why are you talking about it? Why don't you just not say anything? Yeah, you just don't want me to give other dark-skinned women a game. So I peep that as well. Y'all got to peep the games that people are playing on y'all. They don't want you to do better. They want you to still be stuck on what black men think and who they're dating and still begging for their approval and not opening your options. They want dark-skinned women to stay in that space. So of course they're going to try to silence me from, trying to get you out of that space. And, I also think that talking point, oh, you still talk about black men, it's very interesting coming from women who also claim not to care about black men or men in general, but talk about them all the damn time. Have you noticed that? Because I noticed that that's happening too, like with some of these other content creators. Like, it's some women out there, some black women who will literally like, and some of y'all know who I'm talking about, the people I'm talking about. But it's like literally every time I come out with a video, they either go live or they start like bitching about what I'm talking about. And they'll be like, oh, why are you still talking about black men? But in all of their videos, they talk about black men. It's so weird. It's like nobody believes you. Just like we don't believe that y'all don't care about YouTube, because that's another thing these women will do. They'll be like, oh, and Chrissy, she been on here for 10 years and YouTube, it's not that serious and we don't care about that. So why are you talking about me then? If you don't care, why are you shaming other black women for not making videos on the topics that you want us to cover? Why are you worried about like what I'm posting and who I'm talking about if you don't care about YouTube? And then if we happen to cover the same viral topic, then I'm copying you, which doesn't make sense because I thought y'all wanted us all to talk about the same thing. So it's like, black women are weird. I just, a lot of it's jealousy. That's what it is too, and that's not lost on me. But it doesn't make sense for people who, got most of their talking points from other people to then accuse me and other black women of copying them. Especially when the conclusions that we come to on these topics involving black men in the black community, they're not hard to come to these conclusions. Like, you're not so smart because you came to a similar conclusion. Nobody having BWE, which is Black Women Empowerment Conversation, is using original talking points. And anyone who claims that is lying. We're the new, well, it's a newer wave of BWE after me. But even my wave of BWE, we're new. There were women on here before us using the same talking points. So it's like, anyone who says that, you're lying. Anyone who says that you're original, you're lying. Anyone who's even worried about, us spreading the word and saying the same things, that means that you do care. You do care. You are serious about colorism. And you're serious about YouTube. And anyone who, is worried about what videos other YouTubers are posting and what topics they're covering and how many clicks and views and subscribers they have, you take YouTube seriously. None of that matters to people who don't take YouTube seriously. Let me tell you something. The people in my life who don't take YouTube seriously, they don't care about what YouTubers are uploading. They don't even watch my videos. Like, the people who know I have a YouTube channel and don't care about YouTube, they don't even watch me. They don't come to me and be like, oh, I like that video you did the other day. Girl, they don't be watching my shit, which I'm happy about. But they don't be caring about YouTube. So you can tell the people who are constantly concerned about what I'm doing, you are serious about YouTube. You take YouTube very seriously, and everybody can see that. Just like everyone can see you're still invested in the black community, but you try to act like you're not. Anybody who talks about who black men prefer and what they're doing on a very regular basis, on and off YouTube, more than I do in a lot of cases, you're invested. And you have no room to talk about other black women or so-called mammies who still care about black men's preferences or who still talk about them to help other black women. You're not any different than we are, and it's not giving that you don't care, sis. It's not. So, I also want black women to stop being haters of other black women. The more of us on these channels, the more of us on these platforms giving the message to other black women, telling them to move on, helping them to level up, helping them to get out of the matrix of the black community, that's a good thing. You shouldn't want to be the only one giving that message. And if you do just want to be the only one, then you're not really here for all black women. You're just not. Or you're not trying to help black women as much as you say you are. It's okay that, there's more than one dark skinned woman online talking about colorism. I've always said that. When I get tired of it, which I do all the fucking time, then I know there are going to be other platforms like Barbie 2.0 who talk about it. Other platforms like Paris Milan, even though she's not here right now, but she's coming back. When she's come back, it'll be other people like her. And I'm only going to shout out the people who I think are actually good at what they do, because y'all weak-minded, fragile, dark-skinned women out here, trying to appease color, it's like, no, you're not going to get a shout out from me ever. You need to do better if you want a shout out from me. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I also see that's another way that dark skinned women sabotage yourselves. You feel like the space is so small that you want to be the only one. Nobody else can be there but you. But it does, like, that don't help black women. It only being one person to help them, like that. How does that even make sense? You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. I don't know why I lost the chat. Hold on. Can y'all hear me? Wait a minute. This pizza. Hold on. Oh, okay, good. You can hear. Okay, I see it now. I don't know why the chat just disappeared. Okay. Um. Okay, yeah, now I can see the comments. Yeah, Red Elephant says, I feel people who criticize this space are just lying to themselves. I heard a feminist who was anti hypergamy and pro 50-50 say the other day that she doesn't believe in coffee dates. Girl. Red Elephant says, it's like, how are you gonna tell everyone else to be open to dust when you aren't personally? It's crazy and disingenuous. Yeah, that happens a lot on here. Oh, I didn't know that about Barbie star Melanina. I don't watch all her content or whatever, so I don't know. But I'll say she's one of the better um colorism YouTubers. She's one of the better ones that I've seen. These other girls, oh my god. It's just tragic. It's tragic. Love Music says, can you talk about average or common looking dark skinned women who call other dark skinned women ugly for speaking on colorism? Um, yeah, that's the thing. Look, that's nothing new. I've talked about that before in past videos, but yeah, I see a lot of that going on too. A lot of these women have feature blindness, and that was I don't know if Paris coined that term, but I think I first heard that from her. A lot of these dark skinned women with these new platforms, they have feature blindness. a lot of them think they look better than other dark skinned and brown skinned women when they're actually quite similar in looks. So yeah, it's interesting that you clocked that because I've heard that before or I've seen that before. I see that a lot now. And they'll deny colorism and they'll brag about having pretty privilege and getting all this attention from black men. And they'll be like, oh, it's Chrissy's platform. Those are ugly dark skinned women. And that's why they talk about colorism. I don't have that problem. I'm pretty. And then, you go to their platforms or their pages, and it's like the majority of them are average looking by society standards. Which absolutely nothing is wrong with, by the way. I know y'all get sensitive about the term average. I don't use the word average as the pejorative, okay? Most women and men are average looking, y'all. Most people are average. So I expect that when I look at these women's profiles. But the issue is that they're trying to place themselves above other black women and dark-skinned women in particular who acknowledge colorism and, dismissing them because they're ugly. When there have been several dark-skinned women who acknowledge colorism that, to be honest, they look better than they do by society standards. So, I do think that's weird. That's always been weird to me. And, I see all dark-skinned women. I see dark-skinned women of all levels of attractiveness discussing colorism. Not all of us discussing colorism are supermodels or whatever. But I do notice that a lot of dark-skinned women who are considered to be average and below, they're usually the loudest about calling other women who discuss colorism ugly. That is a phenomenon, y'all. Like, that's a thing. Do y'all notice that? I've always found that to be crazy and counterproductive. It's like y'all don't know what y'all look like. Super weird. Yep. Asha, she said they were calling OG ugly when they look just like. I promise you, I put a post on my community tab years ago when that was happening, and it was literally from an African woman who looked similar to OG that was calling her ugly. I was like, what are you doing? What is going on? So, why do y'all think they do that though? Like, tell me why you think that a lot of the, average or people or women who would be considered unattractive, like, why do you think they're so loud about, like, calling other dark skinned women ugly? Ew, that's bad. The black anarchist says, my friend called Fantasia ugly and she looked just like her. Oh my gosh. It's the feature blindness for me. Yeah, it's projection. Yeah, maybe it is a form of dysmorphia. Maybe it is. It could be. It could be. Alexis said for acceptance. Yeah, yeah. I kind of see them. You know how those like conventionally unattractive light skinned women, some of them are the loudest about colorism because it's the only privilege they can cling to. They really don't have a lot of pretty privilege, so they try very hard to uphold the colorist hierarchy. I honestly think of conventionally unattractive dark skinned women. I think they do the same thing, but to get attention from people who are higher on the colorist hierarchy. And they do that hoping that the people higher on the hierarchy will pull them up, if that makes sense. It's like they put themselves out there as a special dark skinned woman who's not a hater and who's not afraid to call other dark skinned women ugly to get colorist approval. It goes back to the whole topic of this live stream. And they do that to get the trickle down privilege, which we already know that does not work. It does not work for dark skinned women. It's not going to work. Yeah, Shanna says feature blindness is at an all-time high. As soon as they get black men or the bio say they're a child of God. And thank you, Chauncey. Thank you for the donation. Kay Frank says they think calling other black women ugly gets them cookie points and separates slash gives them more proximity to black men, light skinned women, and pretty white women or pretty women. Yes, yes. That's so true. That is so true. And it don't work, y'all. It don't work for any dark skinned woman who does that, no matter how they look. Because look at the whole Ice Spice Cleopatra Baby Storm situation. They both thought they were gonna get that trickle down privilege from Ice Spice, and it didn't work. It didn't work. And that's how I kind of view the dark skinned women who publicly put down other dark skinned women who look similar to them. Yeah, so you guys are right. You guys are right. It's like they're trying to get that trickle down, and maybe it ain't working. It ain't gonna work. And look, I'm not saying, I just want to make it clear, okay? I am not saying that dark skinned women have to find every dark skinned woman attractive just because they're dark, okay? But if you actually look similar to the woman you're calling ugly, ooh, that points to a deeper issue. And not only that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And ironically, and this is just over the years something I've observed, um I found that the dark skinned women who would be considered very attractive, like actual models who, support my platform, or just, secure dark skinned women in general, they don't really care like that. It's like they're indifferent to the colorism discussion, right? They don't care one way or the other, or, they appreciate my platform, but they're not trying to silence me. They're not going out of their way to silence other dark skinned women from speaking on colorism. And I think the reason for that is because it's the opposite of the women who would be considered less attractive. Like, these women, they're not scared to be called ugly or jealous or insecure because, their level of attractiveness. It's kind of like how women who would be considered like exceptionally pretty, they usually aren't the ones talking about pretty privilege. Have you noticed that for the most part? Like, the women I'm talking about who are really, really pretty, not just, oh, she's cute, she's kind of pretty, whatever, like what society would consider that. I'm talking about like the women who would be considered exceptionally beautiful. Most of those women, I haven't seen them anyway. Most of them are not doing like pretty privilege content. They're just enjoying their privilege. They're not like complaining about ugly women. So I feel like it's something similar with really pretty dark skinned women. Like, yeah, I don't really see it like that. Now, I do see some pretty dark skinned women who denounce colorism and platforms that speak on it, but those women are usually like mammies. They're like, the pro-black mammies, like the red pill girlies. Some of them are really pretty. And they be going off on other black women, and, they be trying to get money from their black male subscribers. So I do see pretty dark-skinned women in that sector. And if you notice, just saying, they usually end up picking the worst black men. I mean, the stories they tell, I be like, damn, I didn't even go through that. I'm not trying to be messy, but I'm thinking of one in particular, baby. She done been in a DV relationship with a black man and everything, and she be dragging other black women. I'm like, girl, that's crazy. But those are usually like the type of the pretty dark skinned women who downplay colorism. Like, they make horrible dating choices and horrible mating choices. Look at who Flo Millie and Cash Doll ended up with. They ended up as baby mamas to men who are nowhere on their level, status wise and or financially. Look at who Keke Palmer chose. And those are all women who have downplayed or dismissed colorism. So there's a lot of patterns here happening. And then, when they experience a colorist situation, they'll come back and acknowledge that colorism is real after, they done pretty much shit on any dark-skinned woman who talks about colorism. And they'll come back and be like, oh, I experienced colorism, and they do that to get a critical mass of dark skinned women to rally behind them. You remember when Cash Doll did that? So I noticed there are pretty dark skinned women who do that as well. There was actually a red pill girly who did that. Like, somebody sent me the video. I wasn't trying to be messy. I wasn't trying to do a video on it, but I know in the past that this red pill girly, she heavily criticized me and other dark skinned women who discuss colorism. But then I guess I don't know all the details, but apparently she got into it with some light skinned woman. And then she did a video complaining about the light skinned woman being colorist. And I'm like, well, wait, I thought you said that colorism platforms were useless and their woe is me. And so, but she came back to do that so she could get other dark skinned women to defend her and rally behind her. So basically, women like that, they'll acknowledge colorism and parrot our talking points when it's convenient for them. And then after, everything kind of dies down, they go back to throwing the colorism platforms under the bus when it's over. And dark skinned women, y'all got to be very careful about jumping to defend other dark skinned women like that, because they're not true allies. Especially those red pill girlies. So you let them fight their own battles. People like Keke Palmer, fight her own battles. Flo Millie, let her fight her own battles. Cash Doll, let her fight her own battles. You won't hear me speaking up for them ever again. But yeah, I've noticed, the pretty women who minimize colorism, they usually end up in the same ghetto Blackistan situations as the women who are more honest about colorism. And even worse situations, if you ask me. But they appear to have the same level of low self-esteem that they claim us to have. They aren't winning any more than the dark-skinned women who are honest about colorism. So again, this is why I say, like, it does not work to be the quote-unquote nice dark-skinned girl. You still gonna finish last. That's the whole point of this live. Like, you're not, look at all those women I mentioned who downplayed colorism. Are they winning any more than women who have acknowledged it, who are in their industry? Think about it. Lupita, Naomi Campbell, Gabrielle Union. Look, all the women who have acknowledged colorism. The women who downplayed it, are they, winning any more than those other women? No, they're not. And a lot of times they're faring worse, especially in their romantic relationships. So it's obvious, that a lot of the gaslighting and the feature blindness, coming from dark-skinned women, other dark-skinned women, it's a cover-up. It's a cover-up for their deep-rooted inferiority complex. Because you can't be that secure and your self-esteem can't be that high if you making those kind of horrible decisions with your life in your wombs. You can't, like Keke Palmer, you can't have high self-esteem if you doing that. You can't. So yeah, and I do think, like I said in the last video too, that a lot of the women like that, they also are trying to like cope with the fact that they made the wrong choices. You get what I'm saying? Either you're with a colorist black man, you had a baby by one, you didn't make the right mating decision, just like Keke Palmer, how, she had a baby by little broke Dusty, whatever his name is. And then she tried to come on and encourage other black women to date down and go 50-50. Yeah, because that makes you feel, other dark-skinned women doing what you do or what you did makes you feel better about your situation. So you got to be very careful of other dark-skinned women who do that as well. Oh, I accepted less, so now you have to as well. Now I'm going to try to convince you that you also have to accept less. So you got to be careful. Y'all got to be careful with women like that. I'm just saying. Cause, I feel like a lot of them feel bad because they know they fucked up, or they know they've been settled for. They know they've allowed themselves to be a placeholder for colorist black men. They know they dated Dusties and anything else. But of course, they're not going to be honest about that. And instead, they're going to come online or go on TikTok and pretend that it's us that's crazy because we don't want to deal with that. And I'm not saying that all of them are in those situations, but again, like I said in my last video, we see the numbers. We see the numbers. So we know the kind of black men that most of you are getting. We know what most of you are dealing with. And, it's not a life that we would want. So some of y'all are lying, and, if they're not lying or trying to cover up their situation, again, they're just siding with people who hate them to avoid being criticized. And so they don't look divisive. It's all rooted in insecurity and low self-esteem. And you don't win that way, dark-skinned women. And again, to an extent, I understand the strategy behind that. Especially if you are a public figure and you don't want your identity attached to politics or any of the isms, I totally get, like, wanting to appear neutral. That's why I'm anonymous, because I can get off here and go about my, walk around in my real life, and people not be trying to, like, hate on me or sabotage me or whatever because of my opinion on colorism, right? But if you feel that way, and if you don't want your image or identity attached to that, either be anonymous, okay, and say whatever the fuck you want, or if you're gonna show your face and you're worried about, people ostracizing you because of your opinions, then just don't say anything about the isms or anything political. And if you don't give a fuck, just don't give a fuck and say what you want. Because I know some women don't give a fuck, and that's fine too. But if you're worried about, like, somebody trying to stop your level up because of what you think about colorism, then just don't say anything about it. Because the coping mechanisms and the gaslighting and trying to, weaponize, this exceptional beauty that you think you have over other dark-skinned women when you really don't. And you doing that to try to discredit other dark-skinned women who acknowledge colorism, especially when they look similar to you, that's counterproductive. And in my opinion, it just does the opposite of what you're trying to do. It just makes you look like a tryhard. It makes you look like a tryhard that is delusional, and you're overcompensating. And at that point, you look just as bad or insecure as you say the dark-skinned women who talk about colorism. Like, you're not doing yourself any favors. Again, you coming out in the same place that the other dark-skinned women did, is what I'm saying. And like I said, I don't think a lot of dark-skinned women realize how you look or how you're coming off to most people. Not only do you have feature blindness, but you have social blindness as well. Yeah. Well, yeah, we know that Kiki likes, quote unquote pretty boys. We know how she thinks. But yeah, and this, this conversation about feature blindness, it reminds me of that dark skinned woman who came out talking shit about Barbie Life 2.0. I did a video on it, but she was talking about, oh, I'm so secure as a dark skinned woman. And she's talking about how Barbie Life was so insecure. And when I tell you this woman was literally a cake face, she had on so much makeup and contouring on her face. It was to the point to where she was masculinizing her features because she had on so much makeup. And that's why I tell black women, stop taking these makeup trends from gay men and drag queens and trans women, because I'm sorry, but they got a lot of y'all out here looking like men. They got a lot of y'all jaw lines looking real strong. And they out here making y'all look like dudes. It's a really bad situation. But, she had on all of this unrealistic makeup. She had on in weave. And in most of her videos, she was wearing weave. And she was talking about how Barbie life was so insecure because she discusses colorism a lot. And how she was different and she was secure in herself. But the aesthetic that she was giving, it wasn't presenting that she was secure in herself. It was giving the exact opposite of what she was saying. So it's obvious that, she was trying to mask her features with all the heavy makeup and contouring. And it's like, girl, you claim that you're a confident dark-skinned woman who thinks you're beautiful and therefore you don't discuss colorism, but you're literally hiding your beauty. So anyone who's not stupid, anyone with social awareness can tell that you don't actually believe what you're saying about your beauty right now. You're literally wearing your insecurities. Wearing your insecurities, literally. So you're not fooling anyone who has critical thinking skills. And this is why I say it's not just that a lot of these women have feature blindness. You lack social awareness, okay? Because you can't tell that other people can tell that you don't like the way you look. And you're online chastising another black woman for being insecure when you literally look like on the outside that you're insecure. And it's like, what can you tell any dark-skinned woman about self-love? Nothing. Like, you're not qualified. But this is why I say that it's usually the most insecure dark-skinned women who are the loudest when it comes to denouncing colorism and colorism platforms. They hate the way they look. They hate their dark skin. They hate that, how society is, and society has convinced them that they're too dark. Colorists have convinced them that if they speak on colorism as a dark-skinned woman, that means they have a victim mentality. So they get embarrassed when other black women speak on it, and they project their insecurities onto us when they're the ones with the deep-seated inferiority complex. And the sad part is, again, they're not even aware of this. They don't see how insecure they look. And I'm telling you guys this because people aren't going to tell you what I just said, right? They're not going to tell these women what I just said. They're just going to allow them to operate in their delusion. Especially the colorists, because they like women like that. They're using them for their colorist agenda to silence dark-skinned women who are honest about colorism. But behind their back, what do you think they're saying about those women? They're probably calling those women crazy. They probably talking about how horrible their makeup is. how it's like they probably talking about that same girl who came online talking about how she was so secure, how bad her makeup was, and how she looked like a trans woman. They probably behind your back talking about how you trying to look like somebody else. They're probably talking about them baby hairs that you got glued down on your face that are really adult hairs. Behind closed doors, that's what they're saying about you. They're calling you a tryhard. The same people that you tried to look like the insecure dark-skinned woman for, or the secure dark-skinned woman for, the same people still think you look insecure. So again, you didn't even accomplish the goal that you set out to accomplish. Because they still think that you're insecure and they still think that they're better than you. They still think that you didn't even accomplish nothing. This is why I say, being the nice dark-skinned woman, it does not work. I'm so sorry. And I'm just giving y'all the game that nobody else is going to give you. And I'm saying the quiet part out loud. Stop embarrassing yourselves, please. Because, girl, they talking about you. I'm not saying you should care about what they say, girl, but they're roasting you. While you performing for them, they roasting you behind your back. So it ain't working, babe. It ain't. That's all I'm saying. It ain't working. It ain't working. Love says, "Do you think men can genuinely change their type in women?" Possibly, but because I did see some comments like that under the last video. Possibly, but look, listen. If you are a dark skinned woman, I would not bank on that, especially if you are trying to date a black man. Okay, their track record is very bad when it comes to that. When it comes to them using dark skinned women as come up women. And also keep this in mind too. Women are generally more lenient in terms of physical attraction, okay? Men are way more visual and looks matter to them. So I'm not sold on them completely changing their type in women. Now, if that's not a deal breaker to you, and he genuinely finds you attractive and he's generous with his money and he meets all of your qualifications, then go for it. But if you don't want to be his second or third choice, I recommend cutting your losses early until you find a man that prefers women who look like you or similar to you. I feel like women can genuinely change their type, but men, not so much. I'm talking about physical type. Just Me says, "What is it called when light skinned black women do it? When they do what?" Heather says, "Chrissy, can we please talk about dark skinned women being in friend groups full of light skinned women? I know not all light skinned women are colorists, but I know so many dark skinned women who have had horror stories. Please speak on this." Well, send me the horror stories. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video. Um, Hold on, y'all. I realized my phone was still plugged into the computer. Um, yeah, I haven't heard too many stories about black women having, being in a friend group full of light skinned women. But yeah, if you want to send me your stories, send them to askchrissy@gmail.com. Okay, I've been on here an hour. I'll be on here for 10 more minutes and I'll answer some questions. So what do you got? What questions do you guys have for me? Um so Sanaya says, "Oh my God, Chrissy, can you talk about how some black women that are dark skinned let their biracial daughters take the spaces of dark skinned girls, even though white women with mixed daughters don't let them?" Yeah, that's a thing. And you know what? I'll say I don't think that most dark skinned women do that. Like, because the black mom biracial women that I've seen, they speak on that. They'll say, "Oh, I'm not gonna take up certain spaces that are meant for dark skinned women." So shout out to those biracial women. But there are black women who they're gonna allow their daughters to get ahead by any means necessary, even if that means, coming through and stepping on another dark skinned woman. So yeah, be prepared for that to happen as more dark skinned women have biracial daughters. They're gonna do exactly what Black men do. And actually, I do think that the last part of your sentence where you said, even though white women with mixed daughters don't let them, white women actually allow that the most, and from what I've seen. White women and black men who have biracial daughters, they will purposely put them in spaces, especially when they're younger, full of black girls because they aren't going to be as accepted in a group of white girls. So they do that because a lot of times they know that white people are going to reject those mixed children. So they bring them over to the black side so we can embrace them. Just saying. So it's a reason they're doing that. It's a reason they're doing that. Brooke Bond says nobody is going to step aside so you can move forward. Oh, okay. Signe, I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name. She says, I think she meant not replacing white woman imagery. Oh, yeah. White women, and see, that's what I'm saying, though. That's why white women will socialize, and this is changing a little bit more now, okay? But definitely in the past, white women have socialized their biracial children around black people because they know that black people are not going to accept them, and also because they want to keep the standard of whiteness. And this is why I keep telling y'all that regardless of who white women have babies by, they still center their image. Okay? They're still not going to take their little biracial girls over to the white community. One again, because white people aren't going to allow it. White people, if you put a little biracial girl in an all white pageant when they're little, in most cases, again, this is changing a little bit now, but in most cases, the white people aren't going to let that little biracial girl win. So white women don't even try. They're like, okay, I know she's not going to win over there. So let me take her to this all black pageant where she has a higher chance of winning, because they know that black women especially are going to uplift that little biracial girl and put her at the top. Right? And then also white women still want to maintain their image as well. They still want to maintain themselves as the standard. And this is why I keep telling y'all, dark-skinned women, you need to stop feeling bad about having biracial children and still prioritizing yourself. So what, you have a little biracial little girl, that doesn't mean you have to put her in an all-black beauty pageant. She can sit that one out. Take her to a multicultural beauty pageant. And honestly, that's where you should want her to be anyway. Because why would you want to throw her in the middle of all these black people with the colorism issues going on? In my opinion, and this is just me, if I had a little biracial girl, I would raise her among people who look like her in a multicultural environment. And now you can do that more than ever. My niece and my nephew, they were raised in a school where it was people who look like everything. I mean, it was a variety of people in there. Mixed people, black people, Asian people. It was a little bit of everything. And so they're not confused, okay? They're not biracial people who try to over-identify with blackness. They know who they are. They identify as mixed. They don't, they're not super pro-black. They're not confused about their identity. I feel like y'all be confusing y'all biracial children by throwing them in spaces that are predominantly one race. That's how you confuse your children. And honestly, that's how you confuse any of your children, no matter what race they are. Because honestly, even if I had a black daughter, I would do the same thing. I would raise her in multicultural environments around different people. So she won't be conditioned to be a fucking mammy for being a little black girl. And I try, I don't like to give parenting advice because I'm not a parent, but I'm just telling you what worked for me. I'm just telling you what worked for me as a dark-skinned black girl who, yeah, at one point, well, I'll say this. I started off at an all white Christian school, which I'm so glad my mama took me out of that damn school, y'all. Because I could see the direction that, like, I could think back to that time and see the direction I was heading in. I was gonna be extremely, like, overly whitewashed if she would have kept me in that environment. But she was trying to shield me. She was trying to shield me and keep me, like, contained in this little Christian environment. And then, her and my dad, they decided, no, we're gonna take her out of that school and we're gonna put her in a public school. And that public school was literally everything. Black, white, Asian, mixed. I mean, it was a little bit of everything in that school. And I was better off in that environment. You know what I'm saying? And then also outside of that, she took me to places, where there were different cultures, different activities that were provided by different cultures. And so I was, becoming cultured in that way. I just wasn't around one predominant group of people or one predominant race, unless I was, like, in my family or something. Now, obviously, my mama, she was still blackety black, baby. We was still a soul food household. We was still a black household, okay? So that's still my roots, still was raised and conditioned to be pro-black. So like I said before, I had to come out of some of that. I had to decondition myself from some of that. Because, yeah, my mama, like most black women, and my grandma, they had mammy tendencies, and so I had to, like, teach myself out of that. But as far as, like, the activities that she put me in, the schools that she put me in, it was always a variety of so many different races. And, I feel like that helped me so much as a black woman. It really did. I didn't realize how much that helped me until I got older. So do your kids a favor, and I'm just telling you what worked for me. I'm not trying to tell you how to raise your kids, but I'm just saying, when you raise kids around a variety of people, they come out a little bit more well-rounded. Taj Mahal says it's hard to find a multicultural school that's a good school. Yeah, see, and this why I don't like to give too much advice on that, because I don't, I don't know nothing about that. So maybe the parents who, are in the chat, you can give the women tips on how to find good schools that are multicultural. Because, baby, I went to a damn good school. Like, listen, I grew up in the inner city, and I'm a ghetto girl. I'm a hood girl. But, baby, that school was accelerated. Okay? We was learning stuff in middle school. I got to high school and I was bored because the lessons were just, it was like shit I had already learned. So it was one of those, accelerated schools too. And Love says, tips to get my sister and nieces comfortable with mingling in classy spaces. We're all from the hood, and I want my nieces to grow up more cultured than we did. And again, you have to, the way you get other black people to do that, you have to invite them to classy events that they would enjoy based on their interests. Okay? If your sister and your nieces like music, you can take them to a symphony or a ballet or a musical, right? Some people think operas are boring, including myself. I don't like most operas, so I wouldn't start out with something like that. But, they have all kind of events that you can take your sister and your children to that they'll probably enjoy, or her children to that they probably enjoy. A lot of events you can take them to happen at the museum, the children's museum, the art museum. They got all kind of, my mama had me in all kind of activities at the museums. And a lot of those activities are free or they're very cheap. Very, very cheap. You would be surprised how affordable some of those events are. You can also sign them up for, like, dance classes. You can take dance classes as a family. That's another thing, like salsa or some other type of dance. My grandmother was a ballroom dancer, and I took African dance. I was always, at her ballroom rehearsals, watching her dance in her pretty dresses and stuff. So, just being in that, I'm telling you, ballroom dancing is so diverse. So diverse. So many different people in ballroom dancing. And, if I was able to do all those things and not, grow up with a lot of money or live in the best area, then y'all can do it too. My mama had me in all kind of activities and in all kind of events, going to several events that were outside of the hood. You got to understand that you just because you're from a certain place doesn't mean you have to stay there. That doesn't mean you have to always go to the, boys and girls club up the street. Take your children to different things. Expose them to different events and different cultures and different experiences. And it's possible to whoever asked about taking your sister and your niece, it's possible to expose them to classy events and environments, but the adults in their lives, you have to want that for them, and you have to prioritize those things financially, because I noticed, unfortunately, that a lot of, yeah, you have to be intentional, that's the word I was looking for, but I noticed that a lot of black parents and black family members, y'all prioritize the wrong things. You spend money on a lot of the wrong things. And then you look at something like, I don't know, a ballet class or a piano class or um a museum or an event at a museum, you say, oh, that's white people, we can't afford that, that's white people stuff, when it's actually not even that. Like, it's about the same amount that you would spend on a couple pair of shoes. You can buy a ticket to a ballet for like $30, $40. If you want a good seat, obviously it's going to be a little bit more, but like, a lot of that stuff is not that even that expensive. Brooke says a lot of black people, a lot of black families just like to drink and play cards. Girl, when I tell you, and let me tell you something, I don't even know how to play spades. Like, I was always like the black person, like around my black friends that didn't know how to play spades. And I still don't know how to play spades. I've never been a card girly. Yeah, Yaya says all those Jordans add up. Mm-hmm. Exclusively elusive says I took clarinet. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of stuff, that's easy. I mean, the school I went to, I played the flute, and I also took piano lessons. But when I played the flute, eventually, because I was so into it at that time, my mom did buy me one. I don't know how much it cost, but I know that the school that I went to, obviously, if you're in the band, they're going to give you an instrument. So you don't have to pay for the instrument. So that's something that doesn't even cost you anything. I don't know how it is now. I don't know how it is now. I say when I was in school, like, so a lot of this stuff, like, is not even that expensive, or it's free. Yeah, swimming classes, I think it's very important to know how to swim. Let me tell you, I was terrified when I first took my swimming class. I was terrified of that water, girl. But yes, and that's a skill that you never forget. Swimming. Another skill that I never forgot was sewing. I don't love to sew now, but I took a vocational sewing class in high school, and if I could literally sew anything. Like, I don't have to take anything to the seamstress. If I need to hem my pants, I can hem them myself. If I need to fix a hole in my something that I'm wearing, I can fix that. If I need to fix a zipper on something, I don't need to take my pants to anywhere. I can fix it myself. So that's another valuable lesson to learn too. Yeah, bike riding, that's another good skill. And that's a workout. Bike riding, swimming. Swimming, you would think so, like some of those swimming classes, like as far as like what do they call the swimming workout classes? what is it called? Swimming aerobics? I don't know what it's called, but that's a good ass workout. You're literally working every part of your body, and it doesn't feel like you're really working out like that. Yeah, water aerobics. Yeah. So, just expose yourself to different things, look up different events where it's going to be a variety of people, and just go. And none of that stuff is inherently white. It's not just for white people. Everything I just talked about is not white. It's not inherently white people stuff. Anybody can do that stuff. So when people say, "Oh, you're trying to be white because you're trying to do this," no, that's not inherently white. Art museums are not inherently white. Swimming is not inherently white. Musicals are not inherently white. And all of those are going to have different groups of people, different cultures. So yeah, just open your minds and stop allowing people to shame you and, make fun of you because you're a black woman that's trying to expand your options and, expand your experiences outside of the black community. You're allowed to do that. And it doesn't mean you're trying to be white. Okay? Oh yeah, learning another language is good. Yes, it is. I feel like I kind of want to learn Mandarin a little bit. I was telling somebody that the other day. But girl, I don't know. I'm not good at learning other languages. That's not something I'm good at. Yeah, exclusively elusive says yoga, martial arts. Yes, yes. I took karate. That's another thing my mama had me in, and that didn't last because I hated karate. Hated it. Yaya says, yes, I want to be a polyglot. Yeah. We did an article about a black woman who was a polyglot years ago on DDS. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. And now they have apps that make it easy for you to learn other languages. What is that? I know it's an app that it's like the main one that does that. Y'all can put it in the chat. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, Courtney says Mandarin's hard. I know it is. But I just like the way it sounds. I know that's a stupid reason to take it to learn another language, but I just like the way it sounds. Yeah, Rosetta Stone. That's what it's called. Yep. Duolingo. Yeah, so download some of those apps for sure. Okay, anyway, I said 10 more minutes. It's been like 20 more minutes. I still have to go do things. So, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you learned something from this live. Just remember that a nice dark skinned women finished last. And always be, usually if the community tells you to do something as a dark skinned woman, usually it's best to do the exact opposite. That's all I'm saying. I said what I said. Do the exact opposite that the community tells you to do, okay? That's it. And also, make sure you join my mailing list. I'm working on some new content for the site. I know it's taking me a minute, but your girl is busy. I don't be having time. So, but that's coming up as soon as possible. So, love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye.